Mobile matters. We're going to be talking about how big mobile has gotten. I think we saw some of that from Andy at the keynote. We're going to talk about how important it's become to business, and we're going to show how you guys can succeed with these types of business systems and use case scenarios with small businesses. So we're going to kind of move through this kind of quick. Many of you guys know me, Dave Knight, Angel City Data. I'm the president of the company. We're a small Burbank-based consulting firm. We, like many of you, custom development, mobile, desktop, web, et cetera. We're an FBA Platinum. We've also been the fortunate recipients of 3 Excellence Awards. Support, we were Partner of the Year, and then also for Best Design. This last April was actually really remarkable. We were named by the city of Burbank as the Small Business of the Year, which was a really big, thank you. When you walk around the globe and you say, I've got an FBA Excellence Award or something like that, people don't. But you say Small Business of the Year, and it's kind of fun. Again, FM Disc member, a board member. We've got a pretty strong contingent, I think, over here. And I'm a pretty frequent tech presenter. I speak at different types of business conferences and, of course, many multiple dev cons and so forth. The mobile explosion. You know, Andy said something the other day that actually wasn't very correct. He said there's almost as many mobile devices as there are people. That is incorrect. There are more mobile devices than there are people on planet Earth now. I think 7.2 billion is what I heard. It feels to me, now I did a really rough calculation, it feels to me like roughly 30% of those are here at DevCon. I don't know if you guys felt the same, but it seems like everybody's got about 9 devices that they're doing. I like using these stats because I think they're going to be really fun to kind of get a real sense, not just on the enormity of mobile, but how it has kind of eclipsed things that we take for granted in sort of modern first world nations. In the country of Uganda, on the continent of Africa, there are actually more smartphones than there are light bulbs. That says something, doesn't it? Things that we take for granted in everyday life for the last 50 years, and they have more of that than that. In the world, there are actually more smartphones. More people have access to smartphones than to toothbrushes or flush toilets. I know the first thing you think is ooh, but it's an impressive stat. Again, it tells you how this little device has become so much more important than fine roads and water treatment and electricity grids and all that sort of stuff to some of these nations. So it's really impressive the amount of saturation that these devices have kind of incurred on the globe. A lot of people want to know, are we addicted to these devices? Well, yeah, about 60% of smartphone users check their device every single hour, like what many of you are doing right this second. And then here's a real fun stat that I like. 1 in 3 would give up sex versus their smartphone. That poses the question, really good phone, really bad partner? I don't know. Can you upgrade? Is it the same feeling? I don't know. But it's an interesting statistic nonetheless. So what these things all tell you is, wow, phones are everywhere. Phones, iOS devices, mobile, Android, tablets, et cetera. They're taking over the world. They're very important. Everybody has them. Everybody uses them a lot. And they're very important in the lives of those people. So let's talk about the world of business. In the world of business, I consider there to be sort of 3, this is Dave's world here, not you know, Gartner report or whatever, but in my world I kind of broke these into 3 different groups. The disruptors. And these are the people that completely revolutionize an industry through the use of mobile, where the mobile piece is the centerpiece of what they do. And of course, one of these is a very well-known company, Square. These guys came up with a little ingenious piece of hardware that you shove into the audio port, converts a mag stripe into an audio input signal. They used really simple software, push that data upstream, and obviously relatively low cost to get into. Handful of years ago, if you were to go to the bank and go, I want to do credit card swiping, I need a modem line, I need about $500 worth of gear, and I got to have a $10,000 bank balance inside my merchant account, et cetera. So Square lowered all of those bars, and they did it mostly through mobile. What did it allow? You can swipe anywhere. Food truck, swap meet, art auction, et cetera, et cetera. I've got a lawnmower guy on my neighborhood that takes Square you want to pay your lawn mowing bill, you hand him a credit card, he swipes you right then and there. So absolutely amazing. What has it turned into? They've been around for 8 years. They're worth $3 billion. That's a big climb in a short period of time. Anybody from New York here? Okay, we got some New York people here. Square is now bigger, more valuable than the New York Knicks. I know that doesn't make you sound much with the season they had last year, but trust me, it's still impressive. So these guys are a disruptor. They really kind of turned the industry on its ear. What's another major disruptor? Probably the biggest disruptor we've seen in 20 years, Uber. Notwithstanding some short-term stumbles they've had recently, these guys built an app that allows you to locate, hail, estimate, and pay for a cab ride. I don't know about you. Years ago, call the cab company, they get on the shortwave, you're sitting there waiting for 20 minutes, and you don't know when the car is going to arrive, and Lord knows what it's going to smell like when you get in the car. So this is very instant feedback. It's not a desktop app, it's a mobile app. It tells everybody where you are, where the car is, and so forth. Not possible without this mobile technology that we see. Faster, more responsive, it's a better experience for the end user. And not just them, the drivers as well. A year ago, I went to Santa Clara. I was coming to see my friend Rick over there at the Wedge. And we had a kid who picked us up from the hotel and took us to FileMaker. And he was an Uber driver. And we were like, what do you do? He goes, oh, I just do it for 2 hours every morning to help pay for my college books. That's a really flexible business model for the end users of that service and so forth. And it's very great for the drivers as well. Again, established in 2009, 8 short years, $70 billion. Okay, that's astronomical growth for a company. Let me give you a sense of what $70 billion is. Uber is now bigger than Ford Motor Company, bigger than FedEx, bigger than Target. The country of New Zealand spends roughly $70 billion a year. So Uber's bigger than New Zealand, if you want to say it that way. That's a really impressive set of numbers, and it's really astronomical, the kind of growth they've had. And again, leveraging mobile. So the second tier of companies that I'd like to look at, I call them amplifiers. These are people that already have sort of a strategic plan of their operations, and they've actually just extended it by using mobile, much in the way they do with their other devices. So a real classic example of that is Amazon. Go online, buy some books, buy some toys, et cetera, using your browser, right? Well, guess what? They opened it up to the mobile platform. Last year, mobile was 60% of their entire revenue. Black Friday, it was 70%. For those that don't know, by the way, last year was the very first year that e-commerce was eclipsed on mobile over desktop for the first time that happened. How many people feel like that's going to ever go back? Right? It's here to stay. Netflix is another company. Again, they didn't build their company on mobile, they extended it. So from that standpoint, you could stream stuff on televisions, et cetera, but not a whole lot of people were streaming it to mobile, less than 5% back in 2012. 5 years later, more than half of all millennials are streaming content on these mobile devices. So if you also don't pay attention, those of us with hairlines like me, the kids are on their mobile. It is their tether to the world. So this is where business is going. And then sort of the third category, sort of a less severe, less aggressive approach, I call these guys the refiners. And these are people that choose to kind of use mobile on internal operations, kind of improving what they do. It may not be their chief strategic product or service, but running our operations, we can use mobile to do it better. United Airlines, perfect example. I love this story. These guys were, anytime you'd see the pilots walking through the airline, they'd always have this large 45-pound bag of flight charts, airport maps, et cetera, et cetera. Huge amount of paper, huge amount of weight. They replaced all of these with 2-pound iPads. So when you look at why did we do it, well, they got some instant benefit with fast updates, quicker searches, better safety, right? I can look and find if an airport's been closed. I can see a revised map for runways. I can see new weather patterns that are being established. And guess what? I don't have to update a crazy old book across, 10,000 pilots that are all over the place. So I always like to look at those primary benefits. What are the things that really were the nexus of doing this process? But I always like to also look at those secondary benefits. And those secondary benefits, they save 16 million sheets of paper. Enormous amount of cost, storage, procurement, trees, etc. So it's a secondary benefit, but it's a huge one at that. Even bigger, they save 326,000 gallons of fuel. Again, procurement, storage, cost, environmental aspects, etc. So this has been a huge benefit for them. And then I go one step further. What about all that cockpit space that they were able to reclaim? What about all the toner we used to print all those maps? What about the back problems of the old pilot that's hauling this case of 45-pound charts all over the airport? So this thing has just enormous ripple effect. What we've seen so far have been, again, those real radical people that build their entire platform on mobile, and then the people who extend, and then the people who sort of work on the internal stuff. I don't think you're going to use FileMaker Go to build the next Uber. I don't think that's a viable plan. But I think you can sit there and extend your business operations, and I think you can absolutely refine your business operations through the use of mobile. So I don't want you to feel, we're talking about these big companies because they're widely known, they have huge impact and so forth, but it's not just for the big guys. Small and medium-sized businesses can absolutely get the same kind of benefits from this as well. I'm going to run you through a couple of success stories that we at Angel City have had, just to kind of scratch your itch a little bit on what can be done. So our first case, Swaner Hardwoods. These guys are in Burbank. They're roughly 4 or 5 blocks from our office. And they are a family-owned lumber company. They've been around for years. They got about 50 staff, and they have a mill. They have a bunch of trucks. It's a sawmill. Trucks and a lumber yard. I want to say, Bill, about 10 football fields in size. Enormous space, okay? And it's a lumber mill. It's loud, it's noisy, etc. Remember that for later. And what they do is they supply hardwood to roughly 300 Home Depot stores in the Southwest. So that's a lot of stores to get to. And their process is generally done with, guess what? A clipboard. So they're walking up to each of these bins, and they're writing down the product code, and they're writing down how many they need to order for each of these things. And one of the problems that also happens is they have to keep track of the total number of board feet involved. I've got 5 10-foot boards, 50 board feet. That's what goes on the order. So they're doing all this math in the margins, and they're totaling all this sort of stuff up. It's slow, there's errors. Then, when they're done, they go into the Home Depot office, they re-enter everything into the system. Another re-entry point, another opportunity for errors, inefficient. Then, they fax the paper back to the mill. So they're doing this entry up here and on paper and then sticking it up there in the fax. Faxes get a little messed up. They get some obscured numbers, etc. So there's mistakes happening, and again, it takes a lot of time. At the end of the day, one of these reps would actually get about 1 store done an hour. About 8 in a day was the average pace that they were able to achieve using this paper-based system. It was really becoming a bottleneck for their entire operation. So what were we able to do for them? Well, we took out FileMaker Go, and we built them a brand new order system. And we gave them the ability to use barcode scanning of the order. I walk up to a bin, I scan it, boom, I instantly know what the product code is and part numbers are. As I'm totaling things up, it's doing the math. It's figuring out how much total board feet I have of each product. So it's doing that math behind the scenes. I don't have to keep track of it. We gave them a nice interface so when they identify a product, they can actually get a visual representation of it. We've got these very quick little buttons here where you can add 5 at a time or subtract 5 or go into the keyboard and do direct entry of a specific number. And this data all goes downstream and feeds the Home Depot system and forks and also goes into the Swaner system. So that one point of entry with no errors, no skipping over of anything, forks, goes in, instant efficiency. What are the benefits of this? No math, no paper, no reentry, no errors. Twice as fast. The first day that one of the order personnel grabbed this application, went and did his stores, he did 16 stores in his first day. Twice as much output from the same amount of staff very quickly. So this has been a huge success for them. So time for whack-a-mole. And I don't know how many of you guys have experienced this. I want to see a show of hands. How many of you guys have fixed a problem that then caused another problem? Right? You're doing it right. That's how we stay in business. I don't know how all your data disappeared. Let me look into that. No, no, this is a classic example of that. We basically, back at the mill, all these orders are now coming in twice as fast, right? We've got all these orders, they're exploding in, and what has to happen is all of these orders need to get loaded onto the trucks. They've got these big 18-wheel flatbed trucks, they're loading them with tons and tons of wood, and it's starting to back up. And we learned that the process was a puller gets an order sheet, puts it on a clipboard, goes out, and starts saying, okay, we're going to grab 4 of this and come over here. We only have 3 of these. They need 4. We're going to substitute this amount of lumber. If I have 5 10-foot boards, I can give them 10 5-foot boards, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some substitution going on. There's a lot of math, calculations, length, load weight, et cetera. And they're doing all this on paper. Only one guy at a time has the master clipboard, right, because he's doing all the math on it. So you already have this sort of bottleneck of usability, and you've got all this manual process that goes along with it. After they're done, and after those substitutions might have happened, I've got to go inside the office and retype this stuff into the actual shipping system to get a packing list, right? So again, retyping, errors, paper. We're seeing the same pattern over and over, aren't we? So we built them a FileMaker Go order pulling system. The very, very first thing we did, you can have more than one guy doing the same order at the same time. I can hand 3 iPads out. I can put 3 guys on it. We can triple the amount of manpower if we need to get an order out relatively quickly. It automatically calculates your total feet. So from this screen, I might say, hey, we have 25 4-footers, we have 8 100-footers. If I need to do a substitution because we don't have the right lumber, I can at least at the top see how much has been requested, how much is remaining. So we get that math being done for us automatically. The iPads feed the shipping system. Oh, I jumped ahead a little bit. Feeds the system, which is no problem. But this is one of the other things, and it's a subtle thing, and this is one of those secondary benefits. You've got an office. Home Depot calls on the phone. I'm a sales rep. I go, hi, hey, where's our order? I'm not sure. Let me check. Put the phone down. It's a lumber yard. It's 10 football fields wide. I can't get on a walkie-talkie if you've been to a lumber yard, it's one of the loudest places on earth. So I got to get out there and run across 10 football fields, tap the puller on the screen, on the shoulder, and say, hey, how far are you guys along? So we actually gave them this live update thing to let them know. This part is done, this one is partially full, this one has not been started yet. So you get this great visual indicator, and now the management guys inside get instant updates. They can stay on the phone with their customer, tell them exactly what's going on. So, business is booming at Swaner. The bottleneck at the front, all that faster ordering stuff, oh my gosh, we blew that open, twice as much productivity with each staff member. At the tail end of this thing, we're shipping stuff out left and right. What is there left for FileMaker to do? That part right there. How are we going to solve that with FileMaker? We're not. Our job is done. I love these kind of projects. I love it when I can go, you know what, we got rid of all of your data bottlenecks, so much so that your biggest problem is you need to buy another $500,000 saw. And the owners are going, oh my gosh, with all this money coming in from Home Depot and so forth, they're looking exactly at that as their problem right now. That's one where you wipe your hands off, leave the job site as quick as possible and go, thank you very much, because it's a really great success story. So I've got one more, and this is, we've got a bunch of these success stories, but this one's been really kind of near and dear to our heart. And it's been a customer that's been with us for a few years. Market Refrigeration. Uh-oh, that wasn't good. What did we just do there? New Java. Rick, is that your fault? So these guys install, repair, and inspect large commercial refrigeration units. Think of a Walmart grocery store or whatever. These things are enormous, very industrial, et cetera. The company, when we started with them, they had about 15 techs in the field, and they had 5 female assistants inside the office that were kind of typing everything up for the guys out in the field. And the workflow. They had clipboard forms where they had to hit all these different little check boxes, et cetera. Except this is an EPA mandated form. You touch Freon, you mess with any sort of hazardous materials, you've got to hit all these check boxes just right. If you don't, $10,000 fee. So all sorts of fine opportunities, 1 or 2 of those hit a year, can really make an impact. So it's very difficult and a lot of errors, opportunities. So how did they get the forms into the office? They took a picture with their cell phone and emailed it. high tech. So again, that's not a really efficient way to get stuff in there. Once the data was received in these emails, the admins were madly typing this stuff into the actual forms. So again, we've got more inefficiency, more redundancy, and another opportunity for errors. These guys called us. We got this through an Apple store. They called us because they were spending $3,000 a month on paper. A company of 20 people was spending $3,000 a month on paper. That's a pallet of paper. Enormous expense. So that's not a really good thing to keep going very long. And that's the primary reason they called us, not the workflow, et cetera. It's, hey, we're spending $3,000 a month on paper. Can you help us? So what do? We built a FileMaker Go inspection system. Jake on our team built this. We actually won a 2014 design award for this application, excellent award for FileMaker. And it allows them to do inspections in a really simple fashion. Here's one question at the top, tap the answer. Go to the next screen. Here's one question, tap the answer. If you answered this on one screen, we're going to branch over here and maybe 2 follow-up questions, et cetera. But it's a very elegant walk-through wizard approach, and it reduces all opportunities for errors or missing data or partially entered data or invalid data. So we're walking them through this. It's very simple. Of course, we've got a summary page at the end of an inspection. They push one button, boom. It's shot electronically right into the system. And while we were at it, we had this app in their hands, and they're going, you know what, we have to order parts every once in a while, and we have to go to our trucks and pull out these big giant parts books and look them up. And sometimes I'm under a refrigerator, and I've got my tools here, and I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing to go get that part. Or look at a technical spec, maybe some schematics or whatever. So we put some PDFs in here. We gave them the ability to enter parts. We gave them the ability to enter their time on a job. So all of these things were being done sort of organically and paper-based, but we glued them all together in this one app and made it very easy for them to do it. Some of the benefits, faster inspections. They were able to get more work done quicker and more accurately. The costly mistakes, those EPA forms that if they're invalid, $10,000 fee, poof, gone. You can't submit something unless everything's done correctly. No data reentry. If anybody in this room takes away nothing out of this session, the reentry of data is the #1 sin in my world of what we are trying to cure. And then the huge paper savings. So I just told you the benefits, but here's the fun part of the story. They saved $3,000 a month on paper. That in and of itself paid for this app in a number of months. But even better than that, they eliminated 120 man-hours a week of redundant typing. So to some extent, some people might look at this and go, I got 5 admins inside, I'm going to fire them all. These guys had a really broad and visionary approach. They said, instead of them facing inward and answering calls from our techs and doing all their data entry, let's turn them around. Let's get them focused on sales. Let's have them reaching out to the community and see if we can grow this business, because now we've got all these seasoned people that are being lead gatherers. So they did that. It's 3 years later. These guys were 20 people when we started with them. They bought their largest competitor recently. They've not tripled in size. Jake corrected me on this. They're about 95 people now. They've more than quadrupled in size. And they will tell you absolutely that the FileMaker Go app was a key catalyst of their growth and this entire strategy that helped them get to where they were. So this is an enormous success story for us. And these are the kinds of things that we look for in customers. We look for those opportunities. I'm just going to kind of wrap things up in a few minutes, but I'm going to try to throw a couple of tips that we've learned in all of our experience working in mobile applications. Focus on paper less, right? Get rid of that paper. Look for it. It's a great opportunity when you see it. Look for the fact that you can beat paper with a well-designed app. You can search, you can find, you can sort, all those things that we take for granted in databases, but when you're looking at a catalog or a large stack of papers, you don't get that. The data entry aspect of it, a lot of the time we'll use style palettes like this to be able to just go tap, tap, tap. Tap the answer to this question, tap this attribute, tap this common answer to this question. Those are rocket fast and accurate, so it's a very accurate way to do things. You're collecting structured data, right? You're parsing it into the right fields, you're validating it, you're collecting great data from the onset that can then be passed in with no reentry down road. And your systems can be actionable. And what I mean by actionable is, yeah, this is a product catalog sheet, just shows you the picture and the description. Well, we've got that. But this one tells us we've got 16 open orders. It's been on 103 things. You don't get that for free on paper. That's somebody manually going through and adding math. This can tell you you need to do something, or there's something that needs your attention. So these are great ways of, and one of the things I talk to people about, we're trying to get away from portals a lot. I personally think portals are evil. I think badges like this are great ways to go. Here's a window into your data. Let's take you to that other screen and let you get into the details. But I want something actionable and business meaningful right there. Not a bunch of partial portals that I can't really see what the heck it is, and it doesn't give me any sort of feedback. So anyway, you also will get, obviously, if you get rid of the paper, the storage, the file cabinets, the cost, the trees, the weight, all of those things come for free as secondary benefits. When you get rid of paper, you get things onto the iOS. Second mobile tip, keep the mobile experience lightweight. I think we saw anybody in Ronnie's class last session? Yeah? Single purpose app, right? He was very, very concise about that, the benefits of that. Do not try to bring everything with you. I can tell you how many people come to me, let me show you my app, and it's their desktop app, and you're pinching and zooming, and there's 95 folder tabs and all that sort of stuff. That's not what you should be doing on mobile. You want to keep it nice and light and nimble, and very razor sharp on the tasks that you're going to handle. Things like, I want to find a contact. Maybe I want to do a quick inventory adjustment, enter time, look for a location or something like that. And my final tip for mobile, put some effort into design. It's a real strong focus for us at Angel City Data. One of our mottos is beautiful business software. But we feel that putting design into your solutions is everything. It really helps make much faster adoption and training of the staff. You got a nice apparent interface. Everybody's going to know how to use it. You're going to get that increased productivity. If you put nice little, again, we've got these dials and indicators that give you business information from your app without having to dig or trail into other things. And again, happy users are productive users. You want the people happy using your app so that they'll use it so you get those business benefits. So pay attention to pleasing them with great interfaces. And then look for the other bonus of you get the opportunity to improve the branding and the value of a system you may have. So you may already have a database system that everybody in-house uses and doesn't look that great. You snap on a sexy front end to your sales team, they're out in the field, your customers are seeing this, it does a good bit of branding for your operation, and it makes everybody feel more valuable about the product and the database that you already have. So I want to just kind of close pretty quickly here. Mobile, I think what you saw at the keynote, I think what I'm trying to echo today. It's eating the world right now, and it is absolutely taking a big chunk out of business in a really positive way. You don't have to be a gorilla. You don't have to be a Fortune 100 to build custom apps that can significantly improve your business. Get rid of the paper, get rid of the typing, get rid of the errors. That's where you need to set your sights. Keep it lightweight. Don't go big and bulky and so forth. And remember that good design equals happy, productive users. So I say get started now, and it's because I'm still amazed at the amount of FileMaker developers I talk to who have a really great opportunity to snap mobile into their operations and have still been tentative about it. I think it's a great opportunity to get into, and I think it can have some really amazing results. I want to open it up to Q&A. Anybody have any questions? Step up to the mic, please, and we'll address that. Come on up.
I think because you said that you were just 10 blocks away from the lumberyard in Burbank, you hinted at something that's worth mentioning, and that is if you don't get out and visit the people, you don't get to see where the real money is. I will fly somewhere knowing that whatever it costs to go somewhere for a couple of days, I will make back because I see where they're really spending or losing. And unless you see it, they're not going to tell it to you over the phone. They're not going to show it to you in a go-to-meeting. You have to walk past it and say, what's all that? And they'll tell you, well, that's our waste. And then you have an opportunity to do something about it.
I would agree with that. So the premise of, hey, FaceTime is best time, right? I would say FaceTime is the best. If you can walk in their shoes and see where those real pain and pinch points are, absolutely huge value. But I think in this day and age, we've got customers we've never met that are a country apart from us that we've been able to build nice mobile apps that have significantly moved their operations. But whenever possible, we love to have that FaceTime and to see their actual working environment. Okay, I'm going to turn you guys loose. Oh, wait. Dina's there. She's running for the mic.
Might be out of scope, but what about not at client site, and so you have mobile out in the field, but there's internet connection questions. So do you deal with that?
Yeah, the classic question. We've got customers that do inspections on cranes, for instance, and one of the cranes they have to inspect is 5 floors down underneath a nuclear power plant. You're not even allowed to have Wi-Fi running there. So yeah, if you have a client that is in any way, shape, or form going to be in some harsh conditions or off the grid, you need to kind of play with a mobile strategy. Even the Home Depot guys started them on all the Home Depot stores have Wi-Fi. Great, we get started with that. We find out most of the Home Depots have bad Wi-Fi. And they're down all the time, and there's nobody to help get these guys up, and it just crippled them. So we ended up flipping this over to a sync model. And that allowed us to have nice rocket-fast entry and yet still be able to sync up with the mothership at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to get 2 questions. One with the refrigerator example. They had the physical forms, and you automated that with a lot of questionnaires. Is there a way to turn that questionnaire back into the physical form?
That's exactly what it does. If you saw the actual output, what you saw on the screen was the output of the FileMaker system.
Really?
Put it back into the exact same pixel per pixel look and feel of the government form.
Wow.
So yeah,
okay.
Takes some time, but it worked out really well.
Wow, that's great. I need to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And because we're doing the same thing with credit union forms, but we're trying to do like field overlays, and it's real pinch and zoom, like you said.
It's a little, well, you don't want to do the data entry. Notice we use that nice, fast, fat button approach that boom, 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 goes through things lickety-split, but does not give you this crazy little pinch and zoom form. No, I'll output it to that because that's what somebody downstream needs. I'm not going to give you that interface to work with in real time. I'm going to give you something way faster.
But that could work with ODBC as long as you do server-side scripting or some type of solution? Okay, cool.
You bet.
And then second question is with the design and the layouts and kind of the sexy look and feel of it. I know the default ones are not that great. Is there some resources in terms of finding good layouts and to kind of pick and choose from?
There's a lot of great designers in the FileMaker community. Keep your eyes open. There's a lot of great websites for it. Look at a lot of the mobile design guides. Google Design Guide is great. The Apple one is good. There's a number of really great sort of touch interface design guides out there that you can use.
Okay, great.
Hopefully, the FileMaker templates have gotten better over time, but hopefully those will continue to improve.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
David, do you have a favorite sync app, or do you use them all or roll your own?
We've tried a number of them. Right now, we've been reasonably content with the MirrorSync tool. We've been using that probably the most heavily. We have done GoZync and some other stuff in the past, but right now we're using MirrorSync.
Thanks.
Is that it? Okay, thank you, everybody.